Welcome to Horror Tales. Today the story about the night school. The school stood at the edge of town, an old building that had seen better days. Its brick walls were cracked, ivy snaked up the sides, and the windows were darkened by years of neglect. No one ever went there after dark. It was a rule in the small town, a rule everyone followed without question. But not all rules are meant to be broken. Mia had always been curious about the old school. She had heard the stories, the whispers about strange occurrences and ghostly apparitions. But those were just stories, she told herself. After all, she was a senior now, and she wasn't afraid of some old building. One Friday night, Mia and her friends decided to explore the school. It started as a dare, something to do for fun. They had been at a party when someone mentioned the school, and with a few drinks in them, it seemed like a good idea. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they made their way to the school just after midnight. The gate was unlocked, creaking open with a loud groan that echoed through the empty courtyard. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something that made Mia's stomach turn. But she pushed the feeling aside and led the group inside. The main hall was wide and dark, with peeling paint and broken floorboards. Their footsteps echoed in the silence, the only sound in the oppressive stillness. Mia's flashlight beam caught the edge of an old sign that read Night School Room 305. "What do you think that is?" Mia's friend Sam asked, peering at the sign. "Probably some old after-school program," Mia replied, though she wasn't sure. The sign seemed out of place, the letters too fresh for such an old building. "Let's check it out," someone suggested. Room 305 was on the third floor, at the end of a long, narrow hallway. The door was heavy and wooden, with a brass handle that was cold to the touch. Mia hesitated before pushing it open. The room beyond was dark, the windows covered with thick curtains that blocked out the moonlight. As they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them, the sound reverberating through the room. Mia spun around, heart racing, but no one was there. The door was locked. "Did you do that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "No way," Sam replied, his voice equally shaken. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped. The air in the room grew heavy, thick with the scent of decay. The darkness seemed to close in on them, pressing against their skin, making it hard to breathe. Suddenly, a flickering light appeared at the front of the room. An old-fashioned lantern suspended in midair, casting a dim glow that revealed rows of empty desks. At the front of the room, where the teacher's desk should have been, stood a figure, a shadowy shape with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce the darkness. "Welcome to night school," the figure said, its voice cold and hollow, echoing off the walls. Mia felt a chill run down her spine as the figure moved closer. It was tall, with long, spindly limbs that seemed to stretch unnaturally. Its face was hidden in shadow, but the eyes, those terrible, glowing eyes, never left hers. "You've all been very bad students," the figure continued, "and now you must be punished." The room began to change. The walls closed in, the windows disappeared, and the desks shifted, forming a circle around the group. The air grew colder, and the sound of whispers filled the room, voices that spoke of pain, suffering, and death. One by one, Mia's friends began to scream. They clutched their heads, their eyes wide with terror as they fell to the floor, writhing in agony. Mia watched in horror as Sam's skin began to blister and peel, his flesh melting away as if burned by an invisible flame. Another friend, Jessica, began to choke, her hands clawing at her throat as her face turned blue. Mia backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to get out of there. She turned and ran towards the door, but it was no longer there, just a solid wall where the exit had been. "Please, let me go," Mia cried out, tears streaming down her face. The figure moved closer, its eyes glowing brighter. "There is no escape from night school," it whispered. Mia fell to her knees, sobbing as the room seemed to close in on her. The whispers grew louder, drowning out her cries. She could feel the darkness creeping up her legs, pulling her down into the floor. She struggled, but it was no use. The last thing she saw before the darkness consumed her was the figure's terrible eyes, watching her with cold, merciless intent. When the morning light filtered through the broken windows of the old school, the building was silent once more. The gate was locked, the hallways empty. No one knew what had happened to Mia and her friends. They were just gone, their names added to the growing list of disappearances. The townspeople continued to avoid the old school, and the story of the night school became just another ghost story to tell around campfires. But in the dark of night, if you listen closely, you can still hear the whispers, voices of those who failed to escape, forever trapped in room 305. And the night school waits for its next students.